Hi, welcome back. The Sanaa Palimpsest is an object of interest to scholars for its early date and the interesting features that it contains. In this video, you're going to have the opportunity to hear a little bit more development from one of the scholars who has been working on it, Dr. Asma Hilali, about her theories about the reading of the lower text, the earlier or erased text at one particular page of this. And I just want to preface this video by mentioning that there are different scholars, as with many things, there are different people working on a topic that have different opinions about the topic. And I want to clarify that my intention here is to have the important people who are talking about the subject related to the topic of this channel, Variant Quran, as guests and to be in conversation with them. So number one, I want to let you know that I've invited on most of the people, actually all the people who have been most prominent in this particular object to come on as well. And maybe some of them will come on in the future because I want to have further discussions about this material. But also to let you know that these are discussions, and my welcoming of people on this, I probably agree with them on a number of the things that they talk about, and I also probably disagree on some other things. So it isn't tacit endorsement. I hope that should be evident, but it's not tacit endorsement of everything that we talk about, but it's really very goodwill participation in the discussion, and also making the discussion transparent and available to you. So hope that helps. I hope you continue to enjoy and support this channel, because it's good to have you around me and around us as we do these things. So that's it for now. We'll talk to you again soon, and enjoy today's interview. Bye. Well, welcome back to Variant Quran. I'm Dr. Daniel Brubaker, and this video is a follow-up to the one that was just released, where we had as our guest Dr. Asma Hilali, as we have again today, to talk about her work with her earlier work with the Sanaa Palimpsest. And so this video is to clarify one specific question or one specific area of that work that has received a good deal of attention, and to further explain her reasons for taking the positions that she has on that. So welcome back, Dr. Hilali, and glad to have you here. This will be a fairly short video, I think, but we're glad to foster the ongoing conversation. And I will just say, as you and I talked about before, these things are just steps along the way. So, we're having a conversation, and the conversation progresses over time. So thank you again for participating, and it's good to have you. Well, so we can jump right in, and Asma, you have written about one page of the Quran, of the Sanaa Palimpsest, that has what you read as La Taqul Bismillah, and it's right at the beginning of Surah 9, where you find also erased before it the Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, which occurs at the front of every chapter of the Quran in the standard text today, but does not occur at the beginning of chapter 9. And so it would appear, according to what you have found, that this was first written in this palimpsest. It was later erased, and the words La Taqul Bismillah, don't say Bismillah, was written after it, which would indicate a number of things, including oral transmission, and obviously a mistake where the scribe wrote something at the beginning thinking it needed to be there, and then was instructed by whoever was orally reciting or dictating that this should not be written in this place. Is that a fair summary of the picture that you imagine in this scenario?
Yes, and I would just add that it's not, the question is not if it should have been written or not. The question is that the support used by the student or by the scribe at that moment, I don't think there was a context of what should be written or not, but there was, I made the hypothesis that the text was writing during the flow of the transmission that was going on during the circle of teaching, learning the Quran. Mm-hmm. So this is how an oral instruction was written down, and it was not meant to be erased or anything else, because I don't think this folios, this parchment was meant to be to lead to a final copy, or
Right. Yes.
it process in something in between, or a support of writing down in a very specific milieu of teaching and learning the text.
Thank you for that clarification. That's important. So you're thinking that this was a page that was never intended to be included in a Quran manuscript into a bound Quran. It was rather an exercise in writing down what an instructor was teaching.
Yes.
Okay. So that having been said, now I made brief allusion just by virtue of making our viewers aware of some of the alternate theories that have been discussed around this out there in our earlier video. But we didn't have a chance to have you to come back to you to have you explain how it was you considered all these things and still came to this particular conclusion. So that's the main thing that we're talking about today. And so I hand it back over to you to make that presentation of what it was, that the various features, which you included the quality of the parchment and other things, but make a fuller explanation of why you came to this particular, at least tentative conclusion about the purpose and scenario behind this object.
So let me just say at the beginning that I'm not the only one who reconstructed this passage this way. So the other colleagues who reconstructed the folio 5A also noted the presence of this instruction.
Yeah.
However, they didn't give it. They didn't give to this passage the importance I gave it. So because they were also they pay attention to other aspects of the manuscripts, mainly the Quranic variants. So for me, the difference with me is I made of this reading instruction, what I call the reading instruction, the core of my understanding and my interpretation of this manuscript.
Mm-hmm.
So now how I reconstructed the script such way and not in another way. We already we discussed in the last video about the subjectivity in the exercise of reconstructing an erased script. I would like to add that reconstructing a palimpsested text is not only a scientific challenge; it's also an ethical issue. There is an ethical issue there. And by this, I mean one has to free himself or herself to the expectations we have with such an important text as the Quran. And in general, when we read an erased script, we expect to find the Quran the way we know it now. What we call, some scholars call the standard Quran or the Cairo edition of the Quran. So the most popular version of the Quran we know, all the Muslims know. In this aspect, I would like to refer to a very important paper of Julia Gregg McFeely entitled "Finding What You Need and Knowing What You Can Find." And she is referring actually to the relationship scholars in humanities have with damaged material, and she is actually a musicologist, and she is referring to this hesitation, to this ambiguity with the material we have, and also she refers to our expectation when we read an erased script, and sometimes in our projection on the text. And when it comes to the Quran, of course, each one has his own expectations. So when I speak about ethical issues, I'm referring to this necessity to observe a very clear line, a very clear methodology in reconstructing the passage. And in my work, when I reconstructed this passage, and I guess this is what happened also with my colleagues when they read the same thing, I read the passage according, of course, to the vestige of the letters that remain in the palimpsest, And mainly, and this is a technical precision that perhaps is important to know in the way I worked, is to compare the three sets of photos. The post-processed photo,
Mm-hmm.
which is a problematic photo because it is post-processed by photographer. So there are already choices made by the photographer about what should remain as lower text. And to compare this this set of photo with the natural light photos in order to know what was the choice of the photographer, why he did hide this part and another part of the text. The third set of photos is the ultraviolet photo. The ultraviolet photo, we see the two texts, the lower and the upper, superimposed. Mm-hmm. So we see much clearly, actually, I think this set is the most important one. We see very clearly what remains, what is the passage, the lower text. This is the first thing. The second criteria of reconstruction is the context of the folio. So this passage occurs in line 9. In line 8, we have the end of Surat. Line 7, we have the end of Surat Al-Anfal. Mm-hmm. And we have a line, straight line, of half erased, of course, because we are with the Palimpsest, the lower text. And then we have a Basmala. After the Basmala, we have the beginning of Surah At-Tawbah. Bara'atun min Allahi wa rasulihi. And then line 9, this is line 8. Line 9, we have La taqul bismillah, and then the beginning of Surah At-Tawbah again. Bara'atun min Allahi wa rasulihi. So, if ever this passage would be interpreted as the word Al-Anfal referring, I think, I meant the end of Surah, this is the end of Surah Al-Anfal, how would we explain the Basmala before?
Yeah.
And how would we explain the straight line that makes very clearly the difference, the end of Surah Al-Anfal and the beginning of Surah At-Tawbah? This is why I think that the hypothesis of Al-Anfal instead of La taqul bismillah is not enough justified.
Yeah.
Of course, the discussion is open, but we need more elements. And in my opinion, a part of the images, because the images, as you said, and as you know, it's also a matter of what we see, our almost, I would say, physical tools, also our sight and our eye. But the contextual element is difficult to revise or to rethink. So this is why I don't go to the direction of reconstructing this passage differently.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. And so the reason that I mentioned the Anfal, Al-Anfal before is that I heard a paper presented at a conference a couple of years ago, and there was more to that discussion, and I wish I remembered what the further development, just as you made a further development of the argument, there was a development of that argument, and I was trying this past week to remember who it was who presented that paper so that I could, and I did reach out to the one person I thought it was to see if I could get a more development of what the reasons were, because I truly don't remember. But points that you have made, Asma, about the ethical task at hand, and I'm interested to read that article. I have not read that article that you mentioned as well, but it is very applicable in this case because, as you and I both know, there is when we're looking at a page in one of these manuscripts that is not disambiguated, that has the bare Rasm text, we are doing things like thinking about the text that we already know and imagining what the, putting the dots above and below the diacritics into their places. And and this is not entirely unjustified, but there is a process of doing this that we have to be aware. It's not bad to do it, but we have to be aware of it and think about outside the box, so to speak, which is what we're all trying to do. So
I think in the same line of this ethical engagement with the edition of a lost, partly lost text is also to go through the whole material to be able to interpret one part of it. I think it's important to go through the experience of edition and then go to the interpretation of the script.
Yes.
I think the experience of edition makes us extremely humble in front of the text.
Yeah.
And the hypothesis about how to read or such passage could not be disconnected, should not be disconnected from the whole page or the whole manuscript.
Yeah.
I would even say that also flying to Sanaa, touching the manuscript is also very important.
It is, yes. Yeah, no, I very much look forward to the time when I am able to do that, and I'm so glad that you had the opportunity to do that. It's not obviously something that every person in the world can do. Otherwise, these objects would be worn out and before we knew it. But it is important, and even I do remember what I was going to say earlier, and that is that even the ultraviolet I've taken along with me on some of my research trips, a handheld ultraviolet light, and in some cases they've allowed me to use it on some of these manuscripts. And you're right, it can be very helpful, even looking at the manuscript in person. But those photographs do, these things all taken together can help to bring out what's underneath. Well, we wanted to do a short thing, and so I want to be respectful of your time, Asma, again, but are there any further comments on this particular topic? And I'm sure this will not be the last conversation that we have on things, I hope, because it's great to have you here and also with others. Oh, you mentioned, and by the way, the reason I didn't have your book earlier is I took it with me on my travels earlier this summer. We went to Arizona and then to Seattle, and I think I must have left it maybe in a drawer somewhere or someplace on the way. So I need to get another copy of your book. But the other ones that have other people that have written about it, and I'm not sure if I'll put this in the final, but this is Elizabeth Quinn has written the 2 articles in these, and so you refer to these in your
yes,
in your book, and then of course Behnam Sadeghi and Godarzi have written a couple an important article on this palimpsest as well. So just so people are aware, these are kind of the scholarship that we are in conversation with includes those things as well. So any further comments, Asma, about from your side or closing remarks?
Yes, I would just add that I think to have a very clear idea of this manuscript and all the issues it raises, I would say comparing all the 3 editions is very important, because each scholar made his or her own choices on the basis of her own methodology. And the 3 works you mentioned are extremely important.
Yeah.
And I would say even that Elizabeth Quinn's work is the most important one because it was based on a different set of photos.
Yeah.
On the black and white photos made by the German mission in the 70s. And Elizabeth Quinn didn't use post-processed photos. So she was actually seeing what she finds, to go back to the expression of Julia Gregg, and not she was free of already a layer of interpretation, which is the post-processing of the photos. So I think the comparison with all these works give a clear idea about what is this manuscript about.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, thank you, Asma, again, and we will talk to you again soon. Have a great day, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.